Here. Yes. Start there for now. Yeah. Distance. Click. There it goes. Okay, I've got all that stuff there. Cool. Download. Track. Boom. We'll see if it's thinking. I don't know what it's doing. Third time I've done something and there's been no response here. Okay. Now it's thinking. Good. That one and that one. How far did we get when we were talking about drugs? Does anyone remember anything before Thanksgiving? Okay. Everyone have a good Thanksgiving? Good. That makes me feel happy. All right, next thing we need to grab. Number 11, sentencing. And I'll probably show you some graphic images today, so be ready for that. If at any point in time you see anything graphic that you do not like and do not want to be exposed to, you are free to leave. I'll make that statement again here in a minute. Not that I'm expecting anything to be particularly sensitive, but whenever I do talk about sentencing, there will be a couple images there that are a little hard to handle. Let's see if that downloads. Acts like it's thinking. But I realized whenever I was getting ready all of 1 hour ago, that there were a few things I hadn't talked about in here. And I don't know if did we start talking about drugs or were we still in terrorism?
No, you're talking about
Okay, I thought so.
because you're talking about the poppies.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So if you weren't here, I told you one of the biggest ways that people legitimately fail drug tests and don't mean to, right? Like no drug use involved, you're just exposed to stuff that'll get you a negative test or a positive test, I should say. Let's see here. So there are some things I wanted to show you, but before we get started, tell me what's going on in the world today. Because I don't know. Things going on in the world. There was something big. What was it? Okay, so you got war stuff over and oh, I know what it was. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Everybody had a good one. Yay. I did. I'm cranky. No, I had a good one. I had some time to myself. But there was just a lot going on. So if you get some emails like, yeah, I didn't get, I'll get caught up with stuff this week. I think this is our last regular week of class, right? Then we move on to the finals week. So we're wrapping up. We got these last two sections left. In terms of how to approach them, I could approach them like it's a textbook and teach you that way, teach you for the test. We'll do a review for the test. That's enough of that. I'm gonna show you some cool stuff because I want to have some cool conversations. Because we only have a couple hours left to do that in. So we're gonna do that instead, because that's what I want to do. I'm putting myself first now. We've had that point, I guess. I don't know. Thanksgiving. So what you need to know about that? What did Thanksgiving look like to you guys? And don't give me specifics. Give me like a general. What was your day like?
I visited my grandparents.
Okay, visiting family. Ouch. Yes. Okay. So get up some point in time in the morning. Yes. At some point. Any of you catch this?
No, but I've seen videos.
Ooh, that's a pretty big one, right? It slipped my mind this morning because I was thinking about work stuff, not Thanksgiving Day. What happened at the parade? Did you guys, how many of you guys watched the actual parade?
Not this year.
Okay.
I've seen things about it.
Yeah, so this one was different. I turned it on this year. I watch it every year. Turn that on, get TV's going, leave me alone for a minute, you know, that kind of thing, just normal. Turn it on. I was like, this is weird. There's no sound. There are no announcers. Everyone looks kind of hurried and balloons look real crappy. So you know what's going on. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Okay. If you watch the parade, you may notice that a number of the balloons weren't there. Some of them torn. Some of the people looked like they were kind of hurrying and there said, no one's talking. Why? What did you see?
So a lot of stuff there was someone in the week.
Hmm.
So I saw was there were a lot of boats with Palestinian flags, and like cameramen were avoiding them. They were cutting off the audio for the actual parade because people were like chanting and stuff during the parade. That's a lot of the things that I saw, but also it felt just thrown together. It was just like people holding up flags and stuff. It wasn't crazy, but they were still like avoiding the cutting
Yeah.
that out. And I
Yeah.
saw Jimmy Fallon was on his float, so that's the other thing I saw.
Nice.
He's like falling over.
People do weird things when stress hits. You may notice that there seems to be like a lot of stress in the world right now. Signs for this. We're looking at that, right? What I would tell you, what gives me that indication is this right here. This thing's like half a world away, right? And what are we seeing here? We can't have a cultural iconic event without having massive issues socially, right? Yeah, whether it's people demonstrating their support on one side or the other, doesn't really matter, right? When it comes to this. I was having a talk with some of the people earlier class, we're talking about different countries, cultures, and people. I've talked about it a little bit here. I don't remember how much I've talked about it in here though. So, basic primer, when I say people, like as in cultural groups, what the hell do I mean? Yeah, that's kind of what you get, right? That's what you get here. That's why this country's unique. Most countries, what you see is, yeah, it's geography, but it's also racial group, almost essentially, right? You look at Finnish. If I move to Finland, I am not Finnish. Not going to happen. Doesn't work that way. If I have kids and one of the parents is Finnish, then you'd say that kid is part Finnish. It's not the way it works here in this country, right? Most countries, that identity, that culture is in fact tied into an actual group of people that is so tightly knit that they are their own country. Not here. We're different. Signs of stuff could happen back here. That's one of them. Ooh, dangerous stuff. I don't know if I should say it. Maybe I will. Talking to my son about this because he's going to be 16 next year. So kind of the same boat as you guys. You start looking at prospects of war as soon as you walk out the doors of this institution. It's like likelihood you get tagged gets higher if we do this. So keep this in mind. You're going to prepare for this. Like you're going to do that in this area. What would that look like?
As in we go to war. What does it look like?
I'm not saying it will happen, but if it does go bad, you won't be going anywhere. But my son's like, if you're really getting ready for it, be ready for someone to drop out of the sky. Why? This is an indication that everything's already here that you need. If it does go out, you won't be going anywhere. Right? Thought for the day. That one's off topic. Pay attention to that. You want to watch this really closely. Things like this, huge indication. Because how many times have we had something like that happen on an event like this? How united are we? Are we one people? And if we're going to war and we're not, what does that mean? Yeah. That's that one. Now we need to talk about drugs. I realized I start talking about important stuff first. We'll talk about fun stuff first. It's important too. Okay. Culture. Then we'll move into laws again. Share screen, we'll say screen one. Bring the old internet. Yes. Here we go. First video, I can only show you a couple minutes of it. I may have to cut it because it gets inappropriate. Really loud. Guess I got the sound working in here. Is it gonna work at all?
But like, it's like,
There we go. Okay, now I can bring the sound back. Make it bigger. You guys can see this on. That one. You guys ever seen this movie? I got a few of you have seen this one. See how loud it is. I've seen a few smiles. Okay. Okay, thoughts? Okay. Show of hands, how many of you had actually had seen that before? One. Only a couple, I thought I heard more voices say they'd seen that movie before. Okay, a couple of you. Okay, why did I show that to you?
because people like Friends. Is that-
God, apparently so. I mean, in that depiction, they seem really happy. I thought it was funny. I guess my sense of humor is a little off. Okay, we're talking about marijuana. Depiction. We'll go very, very large scale first. Is that positive or negative? You think it's positive depiction of the use of that drug? Raise your hand. One, two.
Are you saying in
three,
the
four.
clip it was a positive? Oh,
Like a positive
Or-
reaction,
okay.
like a positive representation, like, oh, this is, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll say, oh, we'll go even, because that you're starting to get into some nuance there. We'll go more broadly.
They're
Is
obviously having
this-
a positive reaction.
Okay.
Is it a positive?
Okay. Like that. I like that's a good question. We'll make it even a little bit more unrefined. Would you classify this clip, that interaction, as positive or negative in nature? Positive, raise your hand. Negative. Okay, so everyone's here. In general. Okay. Very positive depiction. Right, everyone's happy to see it. The Jurassic Park, that sound. When you first, have you guys seen Jurassic Park? Okay, first time you heard that and you watched that movie the first time, what feeling did you get?
Like a surprise was waiting to
Yeah. Something surprising, something wondrous. Seeing walking dinosaurs, and you're playing off of that. Why? Because it's so sure and amazing that that's exactly what I would compare that to. I don't know. This is a social artifact. A depiction of the way that some people view this. And it's a multi-million-dollar movie, so there's a lot of people have some tolerance for this. To what degree is a good question. Okay. That one was this morning. I think it's actually in that clip. It'll tell you the year. I want to say 2015. No, wrong one. That one was, we'll bring it back up. Here's the sound. Yeah, 2015. Yeah, so that's 2015. Okay. We're almost in 2024, so that depiction is going to be dated, and right, society's changed since then. Yeah. What direction has society moved with this drug?
Positive, it's more positive now.
We view it much more positively. It's so socially acceptable. If I were to where was this? You're in town, someone on a porch, they were elevated. Castle? Somewhere around here, I was walking around. I see someone, they're up on a second story porch. And they're just getting torn up, right? Right, middle of the day, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there's plenty of people walking by. Anyone give any shits? No, right? Why is that? Something happened and somewhere about here, some things changed. Yeah, you gotta legalize, right? That depiction, is it a direct cause of this? No. But it does key into public sentiment to some degree. Okay, next thing. Share screen. Screen one. We'll go with a different generation's cultural depiction of that same issue. This one I'll give you the much shorter. Well, actually, no, probably will be about the same length of clip, but it'll link to the whole video function. So to give you a good idea. Go right. That first. I don't do that. We're gonna make it big. Skip add. Pause. All right. So this is going to pick up a couple minutes into it. This is an hour or something long. This is from the 1936. I would have said 30s, but it's specific. I like that. Okay. Right. School parent organizations join dope fight. Meeting tonight. School Parents Association, Truman something or other. Subject, tell your children. Doctor something at this present. Alfred Carroll, that's the guy who's talking. I'll pause it for a second because you may have noticed. I've got the closed captioning on. It is lagged and in the reverse order, so it's actually reading ahead of what he's saying. Minor annoyance. Hopefully it doesn't bother you any as much as it bothers me. Methods. That last sentence. What did he just say?
It's like worse than heroin and stuff.
Worse than heroin, worse than all these other drugs, the soul destroying drug marijuana. Okay, there's a lot to talk about in that video. Right? Look at the language they're using. Assassin. I did like that their answer was this. We're gonna come back to that, compulsory education, because that always does really well. Fields. Fields were in both of those videos. How were they depicted? Okay, that first one. Positive, negative, very, very positive, right? There is no certainty there. Now we have a good comparison. How was it depicted before? Mm-hmm. Goes in every state of the union. Okay, here's an interesting thought. Take this for whatever way you will. Okay, if it can grow in every single state in the union, grow everywhere. Why is the one you show me about the one that's so concerning, the one that's in New York?
It's in a heavily residential area, or like a heavy, like
Yeah.
it's like policed area, right?
It is a very heavily policed area. Tenements, what are they talking about? Apartment complexes, things like that, public housing, what are they talking about? Talking about the poor people, it's a blight on society. That's the poor. Also, whatever racial group you want to tie in there too, right? You have your hand up? Do you have your hand up? Okay. All right. The amount of information there. That first one doesn't really give any information. That's all about feelings and jokes and stuff. Makes you feel really good. It does its own things. Whether that purpose is part of this or not, you got some strong arguments there. This other one was put together specifically for the purpose of addressing drugs in this country. That is the exact purpose. If you ever watched that full film, you probably heard before Reefer Madness. It's hilarious. The depictions of it, like the effects of the drug, what it does, and that kind of thing. It's all massively out of character. Massively. Right? What's the message society's getting? This is now the most dangerous drug that there is. Right? What do we have as a result? A war on something that literally grows everywhere. Huge amount of resources going. A lot of work to be done. Never going to actually get anything done for it. Yeah. How are we going to do this? Compulsory education. We're going to start messing with the minds of the parents, the minds of the children. Sounds like a good recipe, right? It's 30s. At some point after that, you have the illegalization, you guys should say. Ooh. Another thread to think about. Still within law, still within this topic, but also bridging another topic. Society and its resilience, they sometimes tie that into families. Right? So 2 generations ago, we used that structure as a way to get our messages out there and to affect society, ideally for the better, because this is ideally for the better. We're trying to deal with drugs and get them off the streets. That's generally a good thing. Doing drugs usually is not so good. If you have to take drugs, usually you have a problem. Ideally, taking those drugs to address the problem, not to ignore it, but that's a different issue. That's we'll get back into that in a minute. Now what we do is we take that same structure. Yeah, I'm gonna guess see this online. I'll share screen. We talked about this the other day. And I want you to see overlaps because these are the same processes in play for everything. Share screen. Yes, share. This is that one I told you about where parents at a parent-teacher conference had issues with teachers, and next thing you know, teachers are contacting this group to have, I guess, an investigation. This is the one where it's not thinking. Right here, Control F, find the word tag. Yeah, right here. Specific that tag. Like they created a threat tag to track instances of threats and it was applied and investigated, but they never labeled it, but you're tagging it. Playing with the game, the name game, right? So that's an underlying process there. I don't know if I ever showed you this article. This is one I mentioned, I think, a couple class periods ago where we talked about the owl. I misspelled her name, Al-Awlaki. That's the daughter. She was the youngest one. But it goes through all of those. If you want that article, you can find that too. Now we get to the drug stuff. Okay, we talked about the definitions, issues with the word drug abuse. We talked about processes there. I don't think I have the statutes in there. We talked about prohibition. Prohibition's about the same point in time. The reason why I mentioned the family thing. Hate predictions. A lot of textbooks will go into predictions in their last chapter. This one I didn't do that because I'm kind of playing with it. Something to think about. This is looking forward. This led us to the 1940s. What happened in the 1940s? Okay. Not related, not direct cause, but think about this in terms of time ordering, societal structures, issues, right? Here, these things are tied, they're close. Family structure is strong. War comes. How do we do in that one? Pretty good, right? How many lives were paid in that? All of that is coming from not compulsory education, but that family structure, right? Here's where we're at now. Get ready. Okay, from there. When I say get ready, what I mean is strengthen yourselves, learn how to get along with people, learn as much as you can. Okay. So here's where they get into the statutes. This is the first version. You don't have that one. Yeah. They'll give you the specific definition here. It says, okay, drug means you need to be recognized. United States Pharmacopoeia, official homeopathic pharma, okay? Intended for the diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, and prevention of diseases, so on and so forth. Anything other than food, so there's your exclusion for food, what food is not classified as a drug. Here, intended for the use as components or articles, drugs not include devices or components or accessories, so that's why you have to have separate statutes for paraphernalia, right? Here. There's some I skipped in here because there's so much information, it won't fit on a single slide. If I just did statutes here, it's gonna fill up all of these slides entirely. So there's a lot more here than what I'm showing. Here it talks about drug dependent person. Did we talk about status offenses? Okay. There'll be some point where we mention some juvenile stuff in here, I think. If not, juvenile is its own system. But status offenses are their own interesting thing we should talk about real quick as they relate to drugs. Is it legal to be high? Is it illegal to be high just in general? Under the influence of drugs? Under the influence of alcohol?
It depends where you are.
Depends on where you are and what you're doing, right? But just being under the influence of those things does not matter, right? But just there are certain things we don't allow you to do while you're forward. Okay. Status offenses. Juveniles. Truancy, curfew, things like that. Oh, good one. You're a runaway. Each of these things has nothing to do with, I wouldn't say nothing to do with what you're doing. It's only got to do, it's only illegal because of a certain stats that you have. You're a kid. You don't get to be out after a certain hour, certain period of time, you're no longer allowed to be seen. That's curfew, right? Truancy, school hours, you be in school if we see you. Yeah, that's a crime. Runaway. You ran away from home. We'll throw you in jail. Of course, it's juvie jail. It's not real jail. Still sucks, right? We don't do this for adults if it's illegal to do so. It's really questionable we do this for juveniles. The only reason we get to do this for juveniles is because we're there to help. Because that's what they do. You got a statute in here saying, drug dependent person means person who controls drug, person, da, 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 da. There will be nothing in here that actually makes being a drug dependent person illegal. Drug addict, drug, under the influence of you're doing X while under the influence, right? Those are static offenses. That we need more discussion on. Controlled Substances Act. That's what we need to talk about next. Okay. So Controlled Substances Acts. You have schedules 1 through 5. Right? They will classify your drugs dependent on medical use, danger associated, all those factors, right? The more likely it is to be a substance that you can abuse, the higher up your number goes, or say the lower your number goes. Closer to 1 you get. Marijuana, all of your illegal substances, not all of them, all of your illicit substances are Schedule 1, meaning there's no recognized medical use for it. Which is why that one is in such a weird position right now. Right, because that's a federal thing. You got those two systems. We've already talked about that. Y'all are already aware it's legal to state, it's illegal to federal. You know what the implications of that is, yes? Maybe not, okay. Not recommend people do this, but if you had said license and you needed said information on how and when and like shit not to do, never cross state lines. That should be obvious, right? Where things run into issues, and we have said business that runs said drugs within said state. Is that something we should regulate federally, or is that a state business we should regulate at the state level? Okay. How do you know when you cross that line, it needs to be regulated federally? Yeah, kind of, right? It is something that's not necessarily easy to detect. At the point in time your drugs are crossing over, yeah, it's a federal thing. At what size would any business, if you're saying you do X number of dollars in business, how much of that is finding its way from legitimate users to illegitimate users to into the pocket of one illegitimate user who crosses at state lines? Right? That's the point at which you're at federal territory, not take one person. Right? Very, very, very difficult stuff. You got that going on right now. That's why you'll see that, look at this, historically, California was the first to legalize it. That was in the, was it the 90s or was it 90s unofficial? I can't remember, but during the 90s, they had a lot of dispensaries and things like that started popping up there, regularly raided by the feds. Not so much an issue now. Things that will happen next. I get rescheduled, then I'd say probably 3 elections. I'd be surprised if that doesn't happen. It's just how fast that change happened at the state level. Okay. What else do I need to say about marijuana? We're talking about actual constructive possession, felony to misdemeanor. Ooh, felony to misdemeanor. I have this in there. If I do, I'm going to show it to you directly. Paraphernalia. We'll come back to that one. Let's go back to the slide then. Right. Okay. In this state, okay, you could say give me some other illegal substances.
Other.
Other illegal ones. I heard heroin. What's that? Okay. Yeah. We'll stop there. Any medical use. When I say that, I said recognize medical use. Heroin, yes, no.
Yeah, they use it.
Okay,
Oh, yes, so.
meth,
Like methadone or something like that.
that's some questions there. Methadone is actually related to, I think it's this one, the meth, we'll get to that, that's chemistry.
Okay.
We'll come back to that one. Fentanyl, yes, no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right, marijuana is of course no. Danger. Overdose for that one is, the last time I looked at that, it's been like 20 years, literally. Last time I think with the amount, you can overdose on this, but you'd have to smoke so many pounds of it, it's practically impossible. Right? Maybe if you refined it a whole bunch and then took a whole, you could do it that way. Heroin, cocaine, all those can kill you. All of your painkillers, a lot of your uppers will come from this. Methamphetamines is one specific type of drug associated with this overall class, your amphetamines. And, oh yeah, those definitely have a lot of use. If I said, is it Adderall and Ritalin? You're right here. Small chemical change to get over here. Basically, it's process. What else do I want to tell you? Ooh. This isn't research, man. I'll tell you it anyway. Army experimentation, anybody? World War II. That was very common. We're gonna give you amphetamines and you're gonna keep running, right? Very, very, very interesting. They move all over the place. Doesn't really have anything to do with the danger whatsoever. So how can we use it and is it socially acceptable? Okay. What do I need to say after that? Instruction, we talked about that. Misdemeanor to felony. Is possession of this a misdemeanor or felony? How do you think about that one? Possession, misdemeanor or felony? Misdemeanor, felony, misdemeanor, felony. Is this one a misdemeanor or felony? This top one. We'll start there because it's the most widely known.
Demeanor.
It depends on the state. Okay, so you have the state issues. What's the state law? You have the amount issue, right? Is it this or is it traffic? Okay, that's one issue. Okay. Purpose? Okay. This is one that's kind of interesting because here, possessing it, sentence was, I want to say it was like $2,000 is the fine. Certain amount. I didn't see the statute in here, so let's see if I can just pull it up. Oklahoma Medical, not medical board. Do that. I love. Okay. You guys ever look stuff up? You can look at places like this. Don't cite places like this. Go look it up in the statutes, that kind of thing, right? Say, we're gonna look up the word. I know medical is gonna be very common. We're gonna say F. This. That means it's not gonna be in this one. That's why you wouldn't do this. There we go. That's where it was. 1.5. I know I saw it in there. Right here. possession up to 1.5 ounces of marijuana who can state a medical condition but are not in possession of state medical. Let's skip those words. Okay, move forward. Right, F, V, you don't recognize any words, that's what it is. That's nice. Meaning this document they posted out online is probably terms for you, you can read it, but use almost zero. I can look at it, yay. Here's what I want to get at, and I'll just finish it out right here, because I'll tell you what the rest of it says. Okay? This right here is a felony. You carry that amount, you are getting a felony. You're getting a fine up to, I think it's like $2,000. If you can just state a medical condition, state right there at the time, instead of felony, you misdemeanor. Instead of 2,000, it's 500, maybe 400. I don't remember. It's like a quarter. One bit of information. Right? Okay. Back to this. Okay, paraphernalia, we'll go to the statute because it gives you good, right? Here's how you determine. Statements by an owner concerning its use, right? What is this for? Is this pipe? Is this an actual tobacco pipe? Or is this just the pipe you smoke out of? Proximity, time and space. Okay, I found this at the same time. Proximity, dangerous substances. Existence of residue, there you go, now you're really starting to get at it. Direct or circumstantial evidence of intent, yeah. Instructions oral or written with the object that imply its use. Sometimes they'll tell you, hey, use like this. Yeah, there you go. Descriptive materials, yeah, again, more. How's it on sale? How's it displayed for sale? Okay, now we're no longer regulating individual people. Yeah. Owner, anyone controlling object, legitimate supplier. Are they licensed? Or are they the dealer of tobacco products? Evidence of sales in the business. Scope of legitimate use, expert testing. Notice the shift there? You're having to deal with multiple things, multiple levels, all at the same time. Okay. Nature and extent of drug use. Good information. What is about half of all people will openly say that they've used drugs before? How many people are actively using at any given moment? Right? Half the people are doing it, it's gonna be a portion of that, so less than half. Okay. Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration. That's actually a really common data source for any drug-related studies. Okay. No, I'm not gonna say anything about what kind of press on time. Marijuana's most frequently followed by your pills. And those in close to your age group, highest rates of use. Why are pills the next most frequent thing used?
They're accessible.
Accessible. Something to think about.
A lot of people don't see them as bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's not as bad if I'm smoking. Like,
Yeah, that thing we did a minute ago with, okay, marijuana, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine. Dangerous, deadly, right? People for some reason look at those and they don't see the death that goes with it. So, that's always interesting study. If you're interested in studying drugs, let me know. Next one. Oh, we're gonna come back to that one in a second, because you're now starting to get more into trafficking. Yeah, we'll come back to that one. Okay, we're already talking about paraphernalia. We'll come and talk about prohibition stuff. Prohibition is the same thing you're seeing with marijuana, it's just a much shorter time frame. Talked about it in terms of key easies last time. What do you need to know now? We don't regulate at the same degree. It does mention, it's like, yeah, we still do monitor. You guys still have to be a certain age to do it. And we've got a whole bunch of services that make sure that's the case. I will ask you this question, test of knowledge. How many states need to ratify an amendment for it to pass?
3/4.
Yeah, so both those amendments, the 19th and 21st, 18th and 21st, 19th and 21st, right? 18th and 21st. Ooh. Short time frame. Marijuana's been much longer. Takes 3/4. The reason why they do that, why do they do that 3/4 instead of simple majority? It is a part of our constitution. Balancing of those scales, we want enough people to agree to it that it's clear. Because if it's neck and neck and it's a one person kind of vote like you're doing the Supreme Court, those things are really tenuous and people fight back, right? I'll make sure the states actually follow it. I'm gonna make sure I've got more than just a majority. Interesting thought. Time ordering of these amendments also tells a story. In here, whenever we talked about it, we talked about it in terms of Bill of Rights, and then I'll usually go in the 14th Amendment. We need the 14th Amendment because the 13th Amendment. How many of you know what the 13th Amendment is? Yeah, if you don't know it, you should look it up when you get out of class. All right, you'd be like, oh shit, now that makes a whole lot more sense why we need to make sure that everyone's treated equally. Okay. Type of drug trafficking, you talk about trafficking. So here's when it starts moving into tracking. Use minors. Here you go. Violating this is a felony punishable up to 20 years, $200,000 fine. So you're dealing with trafficking. Talked about trafficking last time. I wanted to talk to you about impact. We only have 3 minutes. What do I need to talk to you about? There's a lot. Dynamics drug trafficking. Let's show you this. There were 2 ideas that were on my head: the terrorism and then trafficking. Talking about trafficking, we're talking about this one and sentencing. Combining those together, the most important things you need to know. I'm doing this stuff. We'll focus on this. We'll focus on that. Remember how I mentioned that whole process of changing society? You sow some seeds out there, you see what takes root, you see what ideas proliferate. This is one. I brought this in for trafficking and sentencing because that's both of those, right? This one's disturbing. I mean, you read that title, I'm not a monster, sexually attracted to children. It's like, yeah, you're a monster. Right? There's a considerable issue going on in our society right now. Is this an illness? Is this choice? How do we deal with this? Right? There is an element of society that is pushing for acceptance of this as a sexual preference. If I said MAPS, you guys have heard that term, right? Minor attracted persons. Like, yeah, you have people who are trying to put that element right there in society right now. There's that one. Oh, and there's that one. This one's a couple years old. California governor signs bills changing sex offender law. Measures won't apply when a minor is 14 with an age gap that's larger than 10 years. Or when either party says sex wasn't consensual. What the hell are they talking about there? Okay. When we talk about sex crimes, we talk about consent, we talk about all the issues that you should think about from your perspective. Now we're branching out a little bit, right? That social side drives the legal side. The legal side, you go to the statutes, you can look those up quite easily and figure out what each of those elements is. I didn't focus on that too much in this semester. It is part of it, getting into the nuance and technicalities of it. If you want more time with that, let me know, we can do that. What I want you to see is social influence, right? Social influence affects politics, affects the system. You get change, and sometimes these things aren't good. What they're doing here, what they did. You've heard of Romeo and Juliet laws that they relate to these types of things. What this one was if it was voluntary, you could be as young as 14 years old, and so long as that gap is less than 10 years, you are good to go. Meaning 14 and 24. Now, if I need to put that in another way of comparison, because that's probably making you a little nauseous right now. Here's another way to make it even more clear. That's the same as eighth grade versus you're done with your master's program. And you're gonna tell me that you're anywhere near the same cognitive state that you can have those types of relationships? Oh, fuck is that? I'll let you guys go with that on that note. We'll pick up next time, right? Have fun.